Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast, where real students are doing real deals in the world of multifamily real estate. I'm Vince Gethings, the owner of the Wheelwell Profits Academy. Listen in as we dive into the journeys of driven individuals who are turning their dreams into reality. These people are just like you, taking action and making things happen. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and if you're ready to take action, check us out at wheelwellprofits.com to learn more about our incredible community. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, co-founder of Jake and Gino, multifamily investor, educator, father, and mentor. Today I get to welcome Mr. Nico Salgado to the show. He's a veteran Jake and Gino member and spent the past 19 years as a Spanish teacher while investing in real estate. Nico began investing in real estate in 2012 with the single-family development project and has since transitioned into multifamily. He went full cycle in 194 units to date and is currently a GP in a 45-unit value add. Welcome to the show, Mr. Nico Salgado.
All right, Gino, I have been waiting for this day. Years ago, I said, I can't wait to get on the Movers and Shakers podcast. I'm not ready, but here we are, man. I don't think I'll ever be ready, but we're doing it.
You know, Nico, I'm still not ready to do a podcast, and this is like my 500th episode, so you just never are ready. And let's just jump in. Why multifamily? You're a Spanish teacher, multifamily Spanish teacher. Those are probably the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. Well, I ran into hardship, so real estate was always on my radar, as a kid. Even I saved money, I rolled up money because I was going to buy a house, and I always loved real estate, but I then never had the real need to because I had my W-2 and I was surviving. Up until about 2018, I hit some pretty hard times, and I couldn't really afford my house anymore. And at that point is when I started thinking about some alternatives. So I read the Purple Bible, like everybody does. It's kind of like a broken record at this point, but I learned about businesses and real estate, which is how I should be investing. And I ended up starting with a business. I built a little wood shop in my basement, and I was selling cutting boards and other furniture items for a couple of years, and I was burning out. I was at the point where I was working like 20-hour days, and I said, if there's no way I can sustain this. So then I started thinking about passive income as a way to have my money work for me, because that was just completely unsustainable. So that's when I started going back to the idea of real estate. Obviously, I had done something in 2012, as you mentioned, but it was really 2018 and 19 when I started thinking about real estate again. And I started looking at things where I live in New York, which was duplexes for about $800,000-$900,000 with zero to negative cash flow. And then I saw a development project, which I thought I could tackle. And then I joined Jake and Gino at the end of 2019. And the first event that I went to, it was 3 days after joining, I got to the Buy Right Boot Camp in Atlanta. And the first person that I spoke to said, Nico, I was trying to pitch the deal. They were like, Nico, that sounds like a horrible idea, a horrible deal. And thank God I didn't do that deal, that development deal, because it would have been a nightmare. And it's still sitting there today in where I live. Nobody has done it.
Nico, there's so many questions. We go down so many rabbit holes, but my very first question, and this is important because you are in an area, in an industry that doesn't support entrepreneurism. They probably think you're crazy. Real estate is risky. What are you doing? What did your coworkers, what did the people in your circle say to you when you told them, I'm getting into multifamily, specifically multifamily, not even single family homes?
Well, nobody really understood it, and it came across a little bit more of like a Ponzi scheme, and I'm getting involved with some weird group, the Jake and Gino community, and everybody kind of didn't pay attention to me until a year later, when I'm in a deal, and now everybody's paying attention to me. But at first, it was people didn't understand. Now, my colleagues, my friends and family, they were like, oh, that's cool. I don't think you're going to make it. I mean, that seems like impossible, but go for it,
Thanks, guys. Thanks for giving me that vote of confidence. And I'll say this again. I did an Instagram reel on this, a short on this, and I started out with real estate is risky. Yes. And who's telling you that? People who have never done a deal. And ironically enough, after you've done your first or second deal, those same people that told you real estate's risky are now asking you to invest in your deals. So stay the course, find a group, find a support group. And when I say support group, find other people who are like-minded in the industry that are going to say, hey, by the way, real estate is risky. If you don't have a 3-step framework, buy right, finance right, and manage right. Real estate's risky if you don't know how to invest in an asset. Real estate's risky if you don't have a coach telling you, Nico, are you nuts? What are you doing that deal for? That deal goes without merit. And real estate's risky if you don't have a coach telling you, Nico, slow down. It'll be okay. Reality. Share a couple of stories. I love the story you just mentioned with me about Darren telling you to, chill out. Things are going to be okay. You don't have to do a deal tomorrow.
Oh yeah, I was being extremely aggressive with my LOIs, my offer prices. Uh, we were only a few months in, and I was like, I was talking to Darren. He was my accountability coach at the time, Darren Light. And I was like, Darren, I got to get a deal. I just need it so bad. And he's like, well, Nico, let me tell you some horror stories about me who jumped into a deal when I shouldn't have, or when it wasn't the right time, or when I was a little bit too aggressive. And he did. He shared a really interesting story. He took over a property that was essentially vacant a month or so after he took it over. Everybody vacated, and he said it was a nightmare. So you have to really make sure you educate yourself first, and you're getting into the right deal first. So when I underwrite deals, I pass them on to people that are better than me to kind of give it a once over and make sure I'm not missing anything. Because and I know these days deals are going south. People have made mistakes because they're not following those frameworks, right? Buy right, manage right, finance right. You have to stick to those basic frameworks, or else you could be in trouble. There are a lot of operators today that are in trouble. That doesn't mean that there are ways around that, but you have to educate yourself. And I tell this to people all the time. You have to be in the right group of people. You have to be with people that are actively, making these deals work. So he was like, Nico, just relax. If it takes you, I want you to stop where you are, Nico. If it takes you a year to get into a deal, that's a success. And I said, fine, Darren, I will back up off this deal because I was way too aggressive on it. And thank God I didn't go for it. And I will relax. And lo and behold, a year later, I did get into my first deal.
Nico, let's talk about that. And this is for people who are listening who even want to start investing passively. It's important that if you're a passive investor, you still need to understand the business, even though you're investing, quote unquote. I look at it as a mutual fund. If I'm a passive investor, I'm investing in a deal, I'm really passive. The work has to happen on the front end. You need to understand the work on the front end. You need to understand the underwriting. You need to understand the team that the operator has really put together. You need to understand your investing goals. Do they align with the sponsor? You need to understand the business. You need to understand buy right, manage right, and finance right. Once again, if I'm listening to this and I want to start out as a passive investor or even as an active investor, what are some of the things that I need to be doing right now to get into the business?
Yeah, what a good question. I appreciate that. I put the work in my first year. I'm going to share a little bit of my experience, and then I'll kind of try to tie it in with the rest of your questions. But my first year of getting into the Jake and Gino community, my coach at the time was Mike Taravella, and he committed to, I told him I was struggling with underwriting, and it was something that I really wanted to get better at. So he committed to 1 day a week, 7 to 8 in the morning, every Tuesday morning, to meet with me and review any deals that I was looking at, review my underwriting, tweak things, comment on things, and we worked together. It was a year to the day that he spent 1 hour with me every morning from 7 to 8 in the morning going over underwriting. And it was paramount to my success. I had underwritten hundreds of deals, and it was necessary. As an active or a passive investor, you have to know what you're doing. You can't just jump into something and take it for face value. The brokers are going to present a deal the way it is, the way they want it to be presented, and it might not jive or mesh with your investment goals or criteria.
So Nico's okay, everybody, by the way. He's at school right now. The bell went off. He doesn't have to go out and he doesn't have to evacuate. He's all right. But you know what? That's somebody saying to him, Nico, good job spending 52 weeks on underwriting. It's truly amazing the hour, the time that you need to put in. And for some of you out there, it may say to yourselves, hey, I'm a really good underwriter. I don't need that work. There may be a skill that you may be lacking. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to go and focus just on underwriting, but it does mean, at least in my opinion and how I started out, you should know the entire business, and you should know a little bit about underwriting. You should know a little bit about capital raising. You should know a little bit about speaking to investors. You should know a little bit about the due diligence process. Learn all the facets. Then as you start scaling up, you may say to yourself, I don't want this underwriting thing. I'm going to let someone else look at it, or I'm going to, look at the deal, review the deal, and then I at least know that business, but I'm going to take care of my business. Mention a couple other things. And I'm going to preface this by saying there's one thing that Nico did that most of us really should focus on, is to become the go-giver. Because when I had students coming into the community and I was saying to them, one of the things that you should be doing is create yourself a one-pager. And Nico was the master, the Canva man. I mean, I would send him over and he would connect with them. And all of a sudden, he's not asking for anything in return. He's just doing it because he likes to help people. And all of a sudden, you make a connection. You make that relationship. You're helping somebody out because you started out at ground zero. Now you have a little bit of experience. Talk a little bit about that go-giver and how it made you feel, and all the relationships you've created from that.
So important, really. And it's hard to really understand what the go-giver mentality is. And I'm actually having Bob Berg on my show as well. I have a podcast. He's coming in next week. We're going to record. It's going to be put out in a few weeks. But it's hard to understand really what the go-giver mentality is and where your true energy is coming from. And it has to come from a place of, I just want to help people because I was in the same exact position and I'm not looking for anything in return. And you are the master at this, Gino. And I'm not, but I'm still trying to get to that point where I feel comfortable and who I feel comfortable with giving things to. And it's really beginners and learners. So anybody who joins the Jake and Gino community, or anybody that I talk to that is looking to become an active investor or even learn more about passive investing, I try to give them all the tools that I have and all the knowledge that I have. And at this point, what do I feel confident in giving them? Certain things like one-pagers, and I can provide them with templates, and I even do little videos for people of how to create the one-pager and what a broker is looking for and what an investor is looking for, okay? And then I also provide people with a ton of free underwriting tools and underwriting practice, because I feel so, I guess, grateful that Mike spent so much time with me, because it's such a big topic. People are if you don't understand underwriting, then you're lost. You have to know what you're looking at. So somebody was generous enough to donate their time to me. I now need to, be the go-giver for other people. So I do it a lot. If you talk to people in the community, I am on underwriting calls, even with some new members today. Another guy named Nico, he's down in Tampa as well, Nico Salgado. I sent him an underwriting video. We're talking about different metrics, and he's learning, and I feel good about it. I don't feel like it's a waste of time. And as a matter of fact, on my lunch period, you heard the bell. I'm in school and I'm working, but this is a time when I feel so happy to be able to give to people like that. And it's just what I can share at this point. And hopefully I can share more in the future. But right now, those are the things that I feel confident in sharing.
I love that. And there's a couple things that I'd like to add with that. Number one, what Nico's doing is he's sharpening the saw. So he's helping somebody else. And big shout out to Nico down in Tampa, because I know we went on his first property tour. He's a broker down there. He just joined Jake and Gino. He's on the property tour. Almost like 30 days to the date when he joined, he's already walking properties. He's locked into other community members. That's what it is about the education. It's not just education, it's implementation. He's getting help by implementation, not just from the coaches, but from other community members. And when you talk about the go-giver, it's such a hard concept, because when we are in the grind and we're working paycheck to paycheck, when I was at the restaurant, I had less time to think about being the go-giver. But that's when you really should be focusing on trying to help others. And it's not just with money. It can be with a simple gesture. It can be with a simple hello. And it can be with simple just passing on your knowledge. And obviously, when you do become financially free, you say, oh, when I become financially free, I'll have more time. Try to put that into your routine now. Try to build a muscle, because it is a muscle. Because what ends up happening is you put your needs aside to help somebody else's. And inevitably, the more people you help when you need time for help, you'll be able to reach out to that person and say, hey, could you help me with this? It is amazing how that is. I know it's very difficult for people to grasp it if they haven't lived it. Read the book, The Go-Giver. We've interviewed Bob Berg twice as well. Go to jakeandgino.com, type in Bob Berg. You'll pull up articles that I've written about him. We've interviewed him twice. Nico, you're going to have a great time with him. I'm going to ask you, what questions do you want to ask Bob Berg? If you focus on that interview, what comes to mind when you're going to be on the interview with Bob Berg sitting in front of you? What are you going to ask him?
Yeah, one of the main things that comes to mind is what do people feel? Like, how can it benefit somebody by being a go giver? People seem to think of it as a lack and giving something away, like taking your arm off and donating it to somebody. But in fact, the more that you give, and Bob will hopefully reinforce this, will build your personal aura, your personal character, yourself up more than you know. So giving is actually self beneficial. And that's what I'm hoping to get out of them.
And it's interesting because when you give, the other side has to be able to receive. So if Nico's out there giving you something, have the grace to receive it, because sometimes we don't feel as if we deserve it, but he's giving you the grace. And it's interesting as I'm thinking this through in my mind and giving it away. Sometimes you do it for the wrong reasons. Do it for the right reasons, and the right reasons are just being selfless, just trying to help somebody else out. The wrong reason, at least to my mindset, is I want to give something to Nico because Nico owes me something, or Nico's going to do me something in the future. Whereas if you come from the mindset of, hey, Nico, can you just send me a one pager? I'd really love to. And then I get that one page over from Nico. I'm like, this is great. And making that connection. So it's important that you also come from that mindset of being selfless and thinking, hey, do me, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to help you out, but I'm not going to expect anything in return.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it just feels so good. It's incredible what it does for us. I wake up every morning thinking about who I can give to, how I can create, a better community around me just by donating and giving. And I think that that's really where our value comes in.
Mm-hmm. So, Nico, you put in countless hours. You did a ton of work. You became the go-giver. What are some other things that people listening to this, they want to take that next step in the multifamily? What else should they be doing?
So throughout the course of my journey, I've had to really go back and forth with which role fits me best, right? And where I fit in on a team and what I enjoy. And you mentioned it earlier, sometimes you go a year through your education and then you find maybe you don't really love underwriting and you want to hand that off to somebody. So then you got to find complements, right? People that are going to complement your skill set and build a team with them. I think the most important thing, well, let me backtrack, because when I first began my journey, I wanted to do everything alone. And that got shut down the first day in the first conversation at the Buy Right boot camp that I went to. And it's imperative to be working with other people and leaning on other people, especially given that I'm still working a W-2 and most of my partners are as well. So we have to have complementary skill sets, right? And we have to work together and we have to have similar visions and goals and just go after it together.
Multifamily is a team sport, just like a lot of other things in life. I mean, marriage, me and my wife, we make a team. And me and Jake, business partners, we make a team. And the Rand Property Management Company, that's a team of employees. If they're not working together to solve the problem, whatever problem it may be, or that solution, it's going to be very difficult. As far as you, I'm going to mention a couple of things that I think that the community has really derived value for its members. And I want you to add on, maybe these may be some that you have learned, but for me, that buy right criteria, understanding the buy right criteria, what kind of assets you're going to be focusing on is so important. The finance, long-term fixed rate financing, we've been really preaching about for the last few years. And the manage right, if you can't measure it, then you can't manage it. Those are three things that pop into my head. What have you taken away from the community as far as your education, as far as pillars that you're looking at and you're adopting and implementing in your business?
Yeah, well, so network is huge. And all of the deals that I have done have been with Jake and Gino members. Yes, there have been some stragglers that are not a part of Jake and Gino, but Jake and Gino, you guys do an excellent job at vetting people up front, learning about their personality, learning about the type of person that they are and how their work ethic and all of that. So all of my top partners are from the Jake and Gino community. It is how I got into every single one of my deal, by being a member of this community and being actively speaking with and connecting with and networking with these members as well. You find people that you mesh with, and that's how you get something done. You see it time and time again. You guys help start little accountability pods and accountability groups, and these people will then be together for partners as partners for life. And I think that is paramount to success, to be able to lean on others that are doing the same thing you're doing with the guidance of people who are 10, 20 steps ahead of you, right? And then it falls back on me to help out those that are a few steps behind me. So it is all a community and a network and a living, breathing environment of successful entrepreneurs that we need to help each other out through.
So, Nico, what made you want to start the podcast?
Well, so that was so there are a lot of facets of being a multifamily investor, and one of them is attracting capital. And my coach at the time, Mark Tarvello, was like, "Why don't you?" He pushed me hard for social media, and I worked really hard on social media, and I still post a lot on social media. We finally honed in which social media outlets I like the best. And he also said, why not try a meetup? I did a meetup as well. I still run a meetup. We're 4 years into it now, me and Joseph, another member. And I also did the podcast for two reasons. Number one was for educating myself, because I was brand new at the time. I was only a few months into my journey when I began it, and I wanted to question the best and top people in the industry and kind of selfishly use that to get questions answered by me. And I also did it to as a platform to show that I have authority in this space. And it's worked out for both. Now, I will tell people it's not necessarily everybody's route, or not everybody should start a podcast, because it's not necessarily going to be fruitful, and you have to stay in it for a long time, and you have to know what you want to get out of it. Me personally, educating myself and building a network, and also presenting myself as an authority figure in the space. And it has worked out for that, but it's not necessarily for everybody.
What's the name of the show so we can at least promote it here and have the listeners go to it?
The Small Axe Podcast. And it's just like the sharpening the saw, it's sharpening the axe.
That is awesome. Give me a couple of steps on how you got yours up and running. I think the first one that I liked that I heard was really be intentional. Don't be like Jake and Gino and start a podcast and go, yeah, we're going to start a podcast. It's going to be cool. Because when we did 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago, let's say, there wasn't that many shows on. And we just thought, hey, let's start doing it. I did it with that intention of just wanting to interview people in the space and learn, but I really had no intention. I wasn't doing it to raise capital. I wasn't doing it to bring awareness. I was just doing it, I wouldn't say selfishly, but I really wanted to learn. Give me some key steps of a person, who wants to start the podcast. And I think everybody should at least try. It's amazing what happens when you get in front of a camera. Maybe you just do audio. If you don't like video, do audio. Start recording, you start talking to other people, you start making those connections. A goes to B, goes to C, and all of a sudden you start meeting a ton of people. And you said network. Networking is a really great way to do it. But what would you do or recommend for me to start a podcast?
Yeah, first think about what you want out of it. And that you might not be totally clear, and that's okay. It might evolve, right? Some people might begin a podcast and then end a few months later, but use that same methodology for creating short clips here and there, and maybe doing more like Instagram Reels. Maybe it'll evolve into something that fits your personality and your needs best. But what I did was I ended up, fumbling for a couple of months, saying, I know I want to start a podcast, but I didn't exactly really know how. So I did like a Udemy course online about it, and I still wasn't ready. And then I ended up getting a coach. So what I did was I used a coach it was like a 30-day launch, get you up and running, and it worked really well. It was really affordable, and I would recommend that as well, to get somebody up and running quickly. And you know what? Here's my proposal, my go-giver. I've done this before for people. I've gotten people up and running on their podcast, no charge. I will spend a couple of weekends with you, get you up and running. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'll take one or two. I can't really guarantee more than that, but I would love to get somebody's podcast up and running. No kudos necessary. Let me just help you out to see if this would fit you and your needs as well.
That is a future business in the making right there. I can see that as a future business in the making, where he can systemize it and say, hey, for a couple $100, I can spend a couple hours with you. But by the way, here are 5 or 6 videos. This is what you need to do. This is the microphone. I think nowadays it's so much easier than when we started, because all the platforms make it real easy. I mean, you can go online, you can Google. There are a lot of companies that help you out. It doesn't have to be this labor intensive, money intensive, a camera, a microphone, a couple of lights, a platform like Riverside, or you can even still use Zoom if you'd like, or Streamcaster or Zencaster or StreamYard, whatever. There's so many platforms out there, but don't worry about that. I think the more important thing is that we all have a unique message. And we all have amazing stories, but you need to have those expectations set. Nico, what does the future look like for you in real estate?
Oh, man. So, I want to do this forever. I feel comfortable and confident. I'm 4 years in. I finally turned down the volume in my head saying, chill out. This is going to be something you're doing forever. My goal is to get out of my W-2 within the next 10 years and just do real estate forever. I want to teach my daughter. She's already, you know what she got me for my birthday? My birthday was a few days ago. She got me socks that say sold. So her interpretation, she's only 8 years old. Her interpretation of what I do is just real estate. So she's seen me at closings. She's joined me at closings. She's seen me close deals. She sees me on calls all the time. And she bought me socks for my birthday that say closed, like a real estate deal. So this is something that I'm going to be doing forever. I am very, very bullish on real estate this year. I think that I've already seen a lot of deals come to me, being offered to me for with people that had that bridge debt that are struggling and suffering, and not that I want to take advantage, but there are deals to be had. And I think that now is an excellent time to buy. If we're going to say that interest rates are historically average right now, they could potentially go down, right? So if we buy now and it's cash flowing now, what is it going to look like in the future? Excellent deals.
And for anybody looking to find out what their sole purpose is or what lights them up, all you got to do is look at the reaction that you have when someone asks you a question about something. I mean, Nico lit up like a Christmas tree right there when he said his daughter bought him socks about real estate and closed. So obviously that's his passion. That's what he's striving for. And that's why he wants to have that go-giver mentality of, wow, I really love doing this genuinely because I really want to continue to get better at that. I want to sharpen the axe. I want to get really good at it. So if you're listening to this and you're struggling with like, oh, I can't find my sole purpose, I can't find my why, just stop and sit down and think about what you really enjoy doing. And if you can figure that out, these tactics, these strategies of trying to help other people and trying to find your sole purpose will become a lot easier. My last question to you, this is important because I know that I've made a ton of mistakes and I will continue to make the mistakes for the rest of my life. You've talked about one or two really big ones, not to get theiritis and to chill out a little bit, and the networking. You have any other mistakes or anything else you think the listeners would say, hey, this is something that I made a mistake on. I'd like to shine the light on it. And I can see you laughing because we don't have enough time in the show, but I you know what I mean?
I got you. Let me say this quickly then. So I hid a deal from Chris Jackson, who was also a coach there, who should have seen this deal. He would have picked it apart. And I ended up losing $60,000 for my team. We went in on it together. I hid the deal. I said, this is going to be a good deal. I needed it to happen. And I made a huge mistake. We ended up losing $60K. My fault. I learned so much on that. And I should not have hid it from my mentors.
What was wrong with the deal? Like let's construct a deal. Like what didn't you like about the deal? Why did that deal fall apart?
The deal was excellent. It was it was a wholesale deal, and that was the issue. We had 30 days to close it, and I didn't understand debt enough at the time to realize that the guy in front of us, we only had one lender working on it, could not make it happen in the 30 days. So what we lost was our hard money down. It was a 50K, yeah. And the seller was not willing to wait for us. For all we needed was another 15 days or so. We had all the money lined up. It was an excellent deal. I'm telling you honestly. But I hit it, and had I not hit it, Chris would have said, "Hey, man, this is not right. You got to negotiate this on the front hand," and I did not. So my mistake.
50 grand is not bad. It could have been 500 grand. I mean, it's just one of those things where that's an important lesson to learn. And what I love about it is you didn't go, you know what, real estate's too risky. I'm going to quit. If you don't have a strong enough why, that's the reaction to it. It's like, dude, I am out. Peace out. This thing really is. I'm going to listen to everybody. It's not that real estate is risky. It's that when we don't understand the principles, that's what makes it risky. And to evaluate your mistakes, that's what mistakes are. Mistakes are opportunities to take a look at and go, what's the solution here? I shouldn't have done this. This is what I should have done. And now that I've learned that, I'm going to do that. So that's truly important that I think we evaluate and we say, hey, this is what was wrong. I can learn from this.
Yeah, I want to share one more part of that. So Mike Tarvella encouraged me to write a blog post about it to get it out of my head, because I spent 2 weeks of not looking at deals and saying I was going to quit, exactly like you're saying. And he encouraged me to write the process out, and I did. And I felt so much better after that. And I was right back in the game. And we actually laughed about it. I said, am I having fun or not? If I'm not having fun, I'm not going to do this anymore. And I said, screw it. I was at a financial, I needed that money, but I was having fun. And I said, this is a game. And if I treat this like a game and I'm having fun, it's going to be successful from here on out. And I have not looked back. And now we're crushing it. So
It's interesting because you can either create wealth or you can create excuses. Nico, you could have created the excuse of, oh, it is too risky. I lost the money and I really need this money. But you understood that by making that excuse, you're not going to become successful in this endeavor. And that's for everything in life. If you want to, create a great relationship with your spouse, or you want to create excuses, you want to create a great healthy lifestyle, or you can create excuses. You want to have a great, life worth of faith, believing in God, if that's what you do, or you make excuses. You can have one or the other. You can't do both. So check yourself and say, am I making excuses? Is it that important to me in life? That's what I think is truly important, figuring out what we value and what our value systems are, what our belief systems are. And sometimes we have to challenge our own belief systems by joining a community or by getting out of our comfort zone and understanding it's okay if we have to wait 12 months to get on our first deal. Because even if you've been doing this for 4 years, put this in this perspective of a child who goes to college. After 4 years, they've just graduated. They're out to get a job. If it takes you 4 years to get 2 or 3 deals, I think you're doing pretty good. I think you're way ahead of where most people would be. So any final words, Nico?
No, I just want to tell everybody out there, you guys are all doing awesome. Continue doing what you're doing, one step in front of the other, one foot in front of the other every single day. Don't give up. You have friends and family to support you and that love you and that care for you. Be patient. This is a long game, but it's a prosperous game, and we're all going to make it together. Call me, call Gino. We'll hold hands. We'll join arms together and do this together.
Where can the listeners get a hold of you?
All right, so my website is smallactscommunities.com, or give me a phone call at 516-660-6912.
Nico, brother, thanks for being on the show. This is awesome. And your podcast again, what was the name of the podcast?
The Small Acts Podcast.
Yes, go and check out the Small Acts Podcast as well. Some thoughts from the show today is ultimately think about becoming a go-giver in your life, whether it's to other people who are in business, whether it's to other family members. If you start thinking about others selflessly without getting anything in return, strangely enough, things start happening to you and start landing in your lap, and things start breaking your way when you're willing to help others. Stay in the game for the long term. If you get anxious and you want to jump the gun, go out there and ask others, hey, how does this look? And as Nico did, don't hide. It's okay to show people what you're doing, and it's okay to get out there and ask for advice. Listen, Nico, I want to thank you for being on the show, for being an amazing guest, and we will see you all on next week's Movers and Shakers. Thanks, everyone.